1931, Yonkers, New York. Faith healing, brujeria, or just another satanic cult. Giovanna and Carmelo Zima, aged couple, held for attempting to cure 17-year-old boy by searing his flesh. The Yonkers Statesman, Wednesday, August 12, 1931. Faith cult pair jailed in torture. Aged Scott Avenue couple charged with assault on Jersey patient. Shrieks call cops. Victim's yells ring through neighborhood. Altar found in home. 20th century justice contended blindly today with mystic witchcraft of the medieval ages, while police held an aged couple as devotees of a strange faith-healing cult, accusing them of torturing a boy with white-hot irons, which seared symbols of sacrifice on his flesh as an offering for his return to health. The quote-unquote faith healers covered the body of the 17-year-old boy, a native of Jersey City, with branded symbols to bring him to salvation, according to police. His tortured screams ringing through the East Yonkers neighborhood where the pair lived at 39 Scott Avenue alarmed neighbors and brought police to arrest Carmela and Giovanna Zima. The boy, Joseph Martello, of 35 Concord Street, Jersey City, is mentally deficient, according to Dr. Frank McAndrews of St. John's Riverside Hospital, who was called in to investigate. His seared flesh, police believe, was sent up as a burnt offering as part of a religious rite intended to ameliorate his condition. Martello had been a resident at the Scott Avenue address, a small stone stucco tenement house, for several months. He had been sent there by his parents, police were informed, to gain the benefits of a quote-unquote cure. Belief that a mystic cult flourished in the apartment was furthered when police discovered in the Zima living room a 4-foot altar where 7 candles sent flickering light between statues of the Virgin Mary and figures of a half-dozen saints. Prayer books and other religious tokens were heaped before the altar, Sergeant William F. Cunningham and men of the Central Avenue station discovered when they descended on the apartment yesterday. Bail of $1,000 was set for the old man, a snowy-haired Italian, about 5 feet tall, and at $500 for his wife when they were arraigned this morning before acting city judge Gerald Nolan. Martello, a high school graduate, had been sent to Yonkers to the Zima's care for a nervous breakdown, the boy's father told the court. He rushed to the city as soon as he was informed of his son's plight. The youth, an employee of a Jersey City delicatessen store, had been in good health until about 6 months ago, the father explained. Returning from work one day, he was found in a condition which required hospital treatment, after which doctors recommended a stay in country quiet. It was on this recommendation, the father told the court, that he sent the boy to stay with the Zimas, old friends of his family, unaware of treatment. He had no knowledge of attempts to cure his son by branding his body, he told Judge Nolan. I thought he was just going to get the benefit of the country and the quiet, he said. Go and look at your son's body, Judge Nolan suggested. Besides the marks of the branding which covered the boy's back, there were scratches and other scars. The direct charge against the elderly couple is being preferred by Mary Bruno, a neighbor of 57 Scott Avenue. Neither Zima nor his wife speaks English. They entered their plea of not guilty through an interpreter, and trial was set down for a week from today. Meanwhile, a son who hurried to court to assist them will attempt to raise the bail to gain their freedom. Neighbors resident in the Scott Avenue apartment, where the Zimas occupied the 3rd floor, had first complained of the terrified shrieks they heard 2 weeks ago. Lieutenant William Farmer investigated, but when neighbors refused to make formal complaints, he was forced to make a charge himself and yesterday sent Sergeant Cunningham to the house. The boy will be held as a material witness, and several of the neighbors will be called in to testify about the screams. The Zimas had been resident in East Yonkers for about 2 years. The religious cult of purging by burning is believed to be an ancient Italian rite. Martello, police said, had been brought to court some months back as missing from home and had been instructed to return to Jersey. Daily News, August 13, 1931. Boy burned in cult rites as sacrifice. A religious cult whose devotees seared Joseph Martello, 17, and other youthful victims and laid them as burnt offerings before an altar, according to police, was discovered yesterday with the arrest of an aged couple in Yonkers. According to Police Chief Edward Quirk, who is investigating the cult, complaints were received from neighbors that Martello screamed for hours nightly while quote-unquote services were being held in the apartment of Carmelo Zemo, 82, of 59 Scott Avenue, Yonkers. Detectives swooped down on the apartment where they found Zemo and his wife, 78, standing before a candle-lighted altar covered with weird symbols. Nearby, the youth lay, his back and shoulders covered with scars left by burns. Pending a mental and physical examination of the boy, whose home is in Jersey City, and a roundup of fanatics who police say visited the apartment, the aged couple were held for a hearing Wednesday on charges of disorderly conduct. Nervous breakdown? Mental deficiency? Was this some sort of an exorcism? Did the parents know what was happening? Now that we've covered the initial archives at the time of the incident, let's dig deeper. The Yonkers Herald, August 13, 1931. Probe of branding of youth continues. Parole-aged pair. Scarred back of alleged torture victim. Picture taken yesterday of Joseph Martello shows seared scars on his back said to have been inflicted by Carmelo and Giovanna Zemo. Yesterday, a son of the couple expressed the opinion that his parents might be mentally unbalanced because of their advanced age. With medical authorities disagreeing as to the nature of his injuries, Joseph Martello, 17, of 35 Concord Street, Jersey City, is still being held as a material witness, pending the investigation of alleged branding of the youth by Carmelo Zemo, 82, and his wife, Giovanna, 78, of 59 Scott Avenue, McLean Heights. Health Commissioner Clarence W. Buckmaster said the scars appeared to have been made at least 6 months ago, but Dr. Frank McAndrews of St. Joseph's Hospital, who earlier examined the youth, expressed the opinion that some were of recent origin. Acting on the complaints of neighbors who say they were moved to act by the screams of the youth, the police arrested the aged couple late Tuesday afternoon. Yesterday, Mr. and Mrs. Zemo entered pleas of not guilty to charges of disorderly conduct and were ordered held in bail of $1,000 for the man and $500 for the woman for a hearing next Wednesday. They were unable to supply the bail and appeared to be destined to remain in the city jail. However, they were released last night, paroled, in the custody of the Reverend Michael A. Reefley, pastor of St. Barnabas Catholic Church, McLean Heights, where the couple have lived for 17 years. At first, the police believed the Zemans were members of some religious cult and that the youth might have been tortured as part of their rites. The investigation thus far has dismissed this possibility, and the authorities are at a loss to account for the branding, except that it might have been the result of a misplaced fervor on the part of the aged couple. Because of the mental condition of the youth, who is still being held, an effort will be made to have him committed to some institution for treatment. On his chest is burned a cross design, while his back is covered with branded marks of various design as shown in the picture. Martello makes no complaint, and because of his mental condition, the police have been unable to obtain any satisfactory information from him. The Zemo speak no English, and their interrogation was by means of an interpreter and was likewise unproductive of results. Meanwhile, however, the inquiry will be continued, and it is expected that the mystery will be entirely cleared up by next Wednesday, when the matter will again be aired in court. The Herald-Statesman, August 15, 1931. No developments in burning probe. Although the police are continuing their investigation of the manner in which Joseph Martello, 17, of 35 Concord Street, Jersey City, was burned, there have been no new developments in the case, it was said today. Mr. and Mrs. Carmelo Zemo of 59 Scott Avenue, who are alleged to have inflicted the burns, are on parole, awaiting a hearing before Acting City Judge Gerald Nolan on next Wednesday. The Martello boy is still being held in the city jail for safekeeping. Excerpts from the Herald-Statesman, August 20th, 1931. Headline: Mystery of Youth's Burn Still Unsolved. Aged couple not represented by counsel at hearing. Buckmaster testifies that some scars are of recent origin. Some wounds recent. With more witnesses to be heard, the case will be continued next Wednesday. The feature of the testimony yesterday was the statement of Health Commissioner Clarence W. Buckmaster that some of the scars on the back of the youth, who is said to be suffering with dementia praecox, an incurable form of insanity, indicate wounds of as recent origin as 3 weeks ago. Previously, Dr. Buckmaster had expressed the opinion that the marks were at least 6 months old. Little change of story there. Most of the testimony was given through interpreter Frank Nicolini because of the inability of the witnesses, with the exception of the health commissioner, to speak much English. The youth displayed evidence of his weakened intellect when he grimaced and called to persons in the courtroom while Dr. Buckmaster was examining him before the court. Examination made. Accompanied by Deputy Warden George Pachanka of the city jail, the Martello youth was brought into the courtroom and stripped to the waist while the examination was made. Many scars of various sizes and descriptions covered his back and sides. A cross design appeared upon his chest. After describing the various marks, Dr. Buckmaster stated that he believes the youth to be insane, and as a result, arrangements will be made to have him committed to some asylum in New Jersey. Originally scheduled to be tried in the morning, the case was adjourned until the afternoon because of the failure of Mrs. Mary Bruno of 57 Scott Avenue, the complainant, to appear. She was the first witness and testified that as a result of hearing the youth scream, she went to the Zemo apartment where the youth was staying and said she saw Mrs. Zemo beating him with a broom while the elderly man wielded a stick. This was on August 11th, she said. Complainant on stand. Mrs. Bruno declared that when she asked the aged couple to stop, they replied that they were not trying to hurt the youth, but were giving him treatments to cure his illness. Bernardino Martello, father of the youth, was the second witness. He said his son had become ill last November and that as a result, he had been placed in a Jersey City hospital and had remained there until March 16th last. The doctor, he said, advised a change of air, and as a result, he brought the youth to the Zima home. He said he has known the couple for a year. Mr. Martello said that he had never seen the marks on his son's body until after the arrest of the couple, and added that the youth's condition seems to have improved considerably as a result of his stay there. The next witness was Mrs. Filomena Martello, mother of the youth. She said she had visited him every Sunday and heard no complaints of mistreatment. She also stated that his condition seems to be better. Mr. Martello revealed that he had no definite arrangement with the Zimos, but at times gave them money and at other times brought food. Then Dr. Buckmaster gave his testimony. Mrs. Bruno stated that she has additional witnesses, and Judge Nolan adjourned the hearing for a week to enable them to be heard. Mount Vernon, Argus, August 27, 1931. Clear 2 in torture case. Mother tells Yonkers court she is responsible for burns on son's back. Yonkers, August 27th. Protestations by a New Jersey mother that she herself was responsible for the burns on the body of her 17-year-old son brought to an end today the Yonkers torture cult case, in which an aged couple had been charged by neighbors with mistreating the lad said to be a mental defective. The mother, Mrs. Joseph Martello, told Acting City Judge Gerald Nolan yesterday that she herself had put mustard and flour plasters on her son's back to cure him from a cold. The plasters burned his skin and formed scars, which neighbors living near the home of Carmelo Zimo, 84, of 59 Scott Avenue, saw police were notified, and Zimo and his wife, Giovanna, 78, were arrested for torturing the boy. It developed after a police investigation that the youth, Joseph Martello Jr., had been a mental case in a New Jersey hospital and had been taken out of the hospital by his mother and sent to stay with the Zimos for a rest cure. Mrs. Martello claimed that her son, strapped to a hospital bed, suffered severe cuts on his body, and that she had bathed the wounds with various patent medicines to clean them. One day she observed him shivering in a corner of the Zimo home, and she tried the plaster cure. Neighbors said that they saw the aged couple beat the boy with a broom, but Judge Nolan dismissed the charges against them and granted the mother's plea to be allowed to take the boy back to Jersey City. The judge said, however, that he would instruct Jersey City police to watch the youth for signs of further mental disorders. Talk about a tale that stinks to high heaven. In the period of about 15 days, the story sure made a 180. Based on the father's testimony, it sounds as though the boy was fine 6 months prior to this. Then all of a sudden, a mental breakdown? What was going on here? The church gets involved and the story flips? Lots of suspicious discrepancies in this story. Purging? Burning for curing? What was going on here? Some sort of ritualistic ceremony or exorcism? What happened to Joseph in such a short time? Remember, he held a job. He was only 17 years old. What happened to him that he had a nervous breakdown and needed psychological treatment, mental treatment? Tell me in comments what you think, and thanks for listening.